Buying property isn't hard, but buying it the right way, that's where a lot of investors fail. If you think that just having cash or credit is going to be enough to get your deal done, then you're missing one of the most important things, actually having the right team in place. In this video, I'm going to break down 6 roles that you should make sure that you've got on your team in order to make your real estate buying journey way smoother. I'm James Masotti. I'm a real estate investor, the owner of Crystal Clear Property Management and our team accounting. And on this channel, I am passionate about helping business owners and entrepreneurs achieve their personal and professional goals through intentional financial planning. So let's go ahead and dive into today's video. All right, so the first role that you are going to need to make sure that you've got set up on your team is your deal finder and negotiator. So here's the thing. The easiest way to go ahead and do this is to go out and find yourself a investor-friendly real estate agent. However, a lot of real estate deals that ultimately end up getting done are done off market. And you can absolutely find real estate agents who have what they call pocket listings, but it's also very possible that you can go out and self-source these deals. So whether you are creating your own lists and direct mailing people or cold calling people, or maybe getting a virtual assistant to help you with those things, you could possibly even work with a wholesaler, which is kind of somebody who does kind of these mass outreach to people. The bottom line is if you decide you want to go out and buy real estate, you need to have a funnel of being able to have deals coming in, and then you need to be able to understand how to negotiate those deals. And so again, whether you're hiring a wholesaler who's kind of negotiated part of the price up front for you, a realtor who's helping you do that, or you're ultimately going to do it yourself, this is a critical role that you need to make sure that you have outlined and identified on your team. The next role that you're going to want to make sure that you've got set up on your team is going to be your contractor / handyman kind of person. And the reason that this is going to be really important is simply the fact that when you go in and you're buying these properties, most of the time you're going to be buying a property that's in some form of distress. And because of that distress, you're going to need to be putting money into it in order to force the value of the property back up. And so when you're doing that, you need to be able to know your numbers. The more and more you do this, you're going to start to learn and understand what the numbers are. You're going to start to learn what you're looking for, but especially if you're just getting started, you're not going to know any of those things. So what you definitely want to make sure that you avoid is the exact scenario that I did when I went out and I bought my first property. And I went in and I had a budget of $16,000 and then ultimately ended up spending $65,000 on that project because of all the things that I missed because I had no idea what I was looking for. So save yourself some headache and try to source yourself a contractor. There's a pretty good chance that when you get started with this, you're gonna have to pay these folks to come out and do assessments and appraisals for you because they don't wanna waste their time on tire kickers who may never actually give them business. So understand that when you're trying to build relationships with high quality professionals who are gonna do really good work for you, don't be the cheapest person out there. Don't try to find the lowest cost person. You wanna find somebody who's got your back, who's reliable. And again, think about this as building a team. Do you wanna build a team of A players, or do you want to build the backup JV bench riders, not that kind of thing. So again, when you're dealing with contractors, and again, all of these roles, really make sure you understand who you're getting and what value they're bringing to you, because cost is only going to be one piece of the puzzle here. The third one that you're going to want to make sure that you've got is your real estate attorney. Now, notice I said real estate attorney, not just like any old attorney out there. There are attorneys who specialize in real estate deals and transactions. They're the ones who are going to make sure that you've got your deal structured right, that everything is getting filed correctly. Even if you live in a state where attorneys don't do closings and you've got a closing company that does it, the more that you start getting involved in real estate investment transactions, they can start getting a little more complicated and complex. And you want to make sure that you've got somebody in your corner that if there's something that you're not sure on, that you can reach out to them and they're going to be able to take a look at and make sure that you're on the right path. And also that you understand the conflict that your real estate attorney is going to have with your accounting provider. So that's going to be our fourth key thing that we're going to talk about. There's going to be a lot of things that your accountant is going to tell you that you can do, that your attorney is going to tell you that you can't do. And I want to be clear with folks because a lot of people misunderstand this. The IRS does not care to a very large extent how you structure things legally. They just want to make sure that you're paying the right amount of taxes. Your real estate attorney, however, wants to make sure that you are minimizing your risk of exposure for having lawsuits. And so your attorney is going to, for example, tell you that you should have an LLC for all of your properties and all of this sort of stuff set up. because that is the best way to do that. But now go talk to your accounting provider. And if you've got all these different companies set up, you got to have different bank accounts, you got to have different insurance plans, you got to have all these different, like, it's a nightmare from a cost. And then from a tax filing standpoint, a lot, like most people who are doing tax returns, they have a minimum dollar amount per entity. And so if you go to them and you're like, hey, I've got 15 different entities, well, guess what? You just got yourself like a $12,000 plus tax bill, right, to do that stuff. So, there's this balance that you're going to have between like, all right, how much do I want to protect my my assets, and going over that with a real estate attorney, and then having the conversation with your tax person to be like, all right, what's it gonna cost me to set this structure up? Now, real estate in the United States is a really amazing thing because there are so many great tax benefits, which is why you want to make sure you do have accounting professionals who are familiar with real estate. Now, I say accounting professionals because, again, if you go watch any of my other videos about building out your accounting team, there are a whole team of accounting professionals that you need, because the person who does your bookkeeping is not necessarily the person who do your tax filing. And especially in the world of real estate, there's a lot of tax strategies that we can implement. And the folks who are just like cranking out doing your tax returns, they may not be advising you on all the best tax strategies that you can take advantage of as a real estate investor. And oh, by the way, if you're a real estate investor and a business owner, the tax advantages that you can have are just mind-blowingly amazing and fantastic. These synergies are amazing, and not nearly enough people take advantage of them. So that having been said, understanding that you're going to have this accounting team that you're going to build behind you, that's going to support you across all of your needs, in that industry as well. Our next role that we are going to have is going to be our property manager. So again, you can do your own property management. Now, you may also decide that, like, I don't want to be doing that. I want this to be more passive, and you're going to go hire a property manager to manage things for you. So these are folks that are going to show your property. They're going to screen your tenants. They're going to deal with maintenance calls. They're going to do all that different kind of stuff. A lot of property managers are real estate agents who decided that they want to have a stable and consistent income. And so when they are selling properties, those are like, it's a feast or famine kind of idea. Like, so like when sales are going great, they're booming, but as soon as the sales dry up, their income goes away. So a lot of them will set up a property management division, because property management is usually set up where there's a reoccurring monthly fee for your ongoing like rent dollars coming in. And so what ends up happening is they set up this property management, business, because in a lot of places a property manager has to be a licensed real estate agent. And so the thing is, from a skill set perspective, most real estate agents, they are sales and marketing people. And property management is operations. It is deadlines. It is compliance. It is very process and very legally, like there's a lot of legalese that you like, oh, you have to do this on this day and this on this day. And you got to have like systems and software. That is not always the strong suit of a lot of real estate agents. So when you're trying to pick your property manager, again, decide whether you're going to do it yourself or you're going to hire somebody. But please, 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 please understand, just because they're a really great real estate agent, or you've got a friend or somebody that you know is a real estate agent and they can manage the property for you, they are not the same thing. Please, please, please. Otherwise, you will end up spending all of your time paying somebody that you are going to ultimately end up managing yourself anyway. And then our final person that we are going to go ahead and we are going to bring on board is going to be our insurance broker. Now, you're going to need different types of insurance depending on what you got going on. For example, if your property is vacant and you are trying to rehab it, you're probably going to have a fire policy, which is going to be different than when you have a tenant in place and you're going to have your residential structure property. You're going to want to make sure that, for example, you're advising your tenants on having a tenant's insurance. At some point, as you're building up a portfolio, you may start to realize that you need umbrella insurance. So having an insurance broker who understands kind of like the different types of work that you're doing, the different structures that you have, that can advise you on, not necessarily always like the cheapest insurance option, but also the best, most flexible insurance options that you can have available for you as you kind of like navigate and migrate through all those different pieces of things, is going to be a really important role for you to have as well. So now that we've built out the real estate team, it's time to actually start thinking about buying our first property. So I'm going to walk you through step by step right over here in this video. I want you to go ahead and click on it, and I'm going to see you over there how to buy your first property.